Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to today's episode of the Daily Packers Post, where we bring you in-depth daily coverage of your Green Bay Packers. We have new videos dropping every day, Monday through Friday, so hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Big news out of Green Bay on Thursday. The Packers acquire edge rusher Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for 2 first-round draft picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. Brian Gutekunst, the Packers GM, pulling the trigger on a blockbuster deal that backs up the talk that he had at the beginning of this past offseason, where he talked about the urgency to win a Super Bowl. The Packers then turn around and sign Parsons to a 4-year extension worth $188 million, with $136 million guaranteed. So we're going to break down the impact, both short-term and long-term, of the acquisition of Micah Parsons. Let's start with the obvious. The Packers just got an elite pass rusher. I mean, Rashawn Gary is a good pass rusher, but he's never had more than 9.5 sacks in a season. In 4 campaigns in the NFL, 4 years in the NFL, Parsons has never recorded fewer than 12 sacks in a season. And that 12-sack season came when he missed 4 games last year. He's 6'3", 245. He played linebacker in Dallas, but will likely be a defensive end in Jeff Hafley's 4-3 defense. And now the Packers have amazing depth at defensive end. You have Parsons and Gary as the likely starters, and then Lucas Van Ness, Brenton Cox, Kingsley Enagbare, and Baron Sorrell to provide depth. And, the thing is this. Entering last season, which was his first as defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley said he wanted to be able to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks by only bringing his front 4. Didn't want to resort to blitzes and all other kinds of stunts, deceptions, and the like. Well, the Packers did finish 8th in the NFL in sacks, but 15 of them came in just 2 games against some pretty bad offensive lines. And B, last year, Hafley had to put in stunts, blitzes, fake pressure, formations to basically have 5 or 6 guys line up like they could be rushing the quarterback, but only 4 of them came on any given play, and the offense had to sort of guess which player was coming and which player was dropping back into coverage. Well, now that won't be necessary. He could still do it, but all of a sudden, getting to the quarterback with just your front 4, well, that's going to be a much more realistic possibility. Now, other players clearly will benefit from the trade for Parsons. Obviously, Rashawn Gary, he was seeing a lot of double teams last year. Don't think he's going to see too many of them this year. That could raise his sack totals. And all the other members of the defensive line, more likely to see one-on-one opportunities as opposing offenses double team and move their line and protection to the side that Parsons is on. Obviously, the secondary is going to benefit. The cornerbacks, who were considered a question mark coming into the season, they're not going to have to cover receivers for as long a time if the front 4 is getting consistent pressure on the quarterback. So that is a big impact because the depth at corner and even the frontline talent at corner was a concern heading into the season. And let's also face this. The pass rush. If you get a better pass rush, you're going to create more turnovers. That's going to help the offense. You're going to get more interceptions when quarterbacks are forced to throw off balance or rushed or, passes get deflected. And then you also get more fumbles from strip sacks and the like. So look for both of those things. That will help the offense. But there's also the loss of Kenny Clark. And I do want to take the time to thank Kenny Clark for his 9 seasons in Green Bay. He was not only a 3-time Pro Bowler, but also a leader on the defense, and his loss will most certainly be felt. He was the team's best defensive lineman for most of his 9 seasons in Green Bay, one of the few interior defensive linemen who could both stuff the run and pressure the quarterback. Had a career high 7.5 sacks in 2023. So some of the interior defensive linemen are going to have to step up. And all of a sudden, there's more pressure on Devontae Wyatt to become an every down player. He's never played more than 50% of the team's defensive snaps. Carl Brooks and Colby Wooden will now take on bigger roles, as will rookies Warren Brinson, the 6th-round pick out of Georgia, and his college teammate Nazir Stackhouse, who is going to take that TJ Slayton role of, trying to be that early down run stuffer, the nose tackle who can occupy multiple blockers. There is now less bulk, less size on the interior of the defensive line. That may adversely affect the Packers' ability to stop the run, something they actually did well last year. But there is an option. Don't be shocked if Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary, both of whom played defensive tackle at times in college, they could be moved inside so you can get more of your best pass rushers on the field. If you can get Van Ness, Gary, Parsons, Wyatt, all on the field at the same time, man, you are creating some potential mismatches for your defense. Now, there is obviously also the cap hit to deal with. And the trade of Kenny Clark does reduce the impact a little bit. We know the Packers would either have had to restructure Clark or, let him go at the end of 2025 because he had a large cap hit. There is a dead cap hit now. Packers going to take all of that this year when they have a little excess cap. And obviously, they're going to be in a different situation next year than they otherwise would have been. First of all, they're going to have to restructure Jordan Love's contract almost certainly before next year's season starts. And then you've got potential free agents in Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Rasheed Walker, Quay Walker, Sean Ryan. You add Parsons to the mix and that big contract, it is going to be more challenging for the Packers to re-sign those guys. Now, look, Micah Parsons is a better player than any of the guys we mentioned, but, you need talent around those superstars to win Super Bowls. So let's see how Russ Ball and Brian Gutekunst handle the upcoming offseason with the new cap constraints that this deal does make for the Packers. But the other thing is this. Green Bay has now added a 26-year-old elite pass rusher. Parsons is in his prime right now, and they have him under contract for the next 5 years, including this season. Here it is. This is the window. You're giving up 2 first-round draft picks. That's going to come back to hurt the team down the road. So the window to win a Super Bowl, the next 3, 4, maybe 5 years, depending on how many players they can keep to surround Parsons with, this is it. Brian Gutekunst put all his chips in the middle, and this is the hand he's going to play. Now, you win Super Bowls with impact players. And we always talk that the Packers didn't have glaring weaknesses, but they also didn't have a lot of really big impact players. But now you have Parsons, you have Xavier McKinney, you have Josh Jacobs. Players like Jordan Love and Edgerrin Cooper could join the ranks of impact players this year or very soon thereafter. Matthew Golden down the line could also become an impact player. And you never know who's going to step up, but those are the main guys that I think would fit that description. That is a lot more than what the team had. The Packers lacked enough of those impact guys. Parsons certainly does give them another weapon. And if you go back to the last 2 Super Bowls, you needed those impact players. In 2010, you had Rodgers, you had Jordy Nelson, you had on defense, you had Clay Matthews, and you had Collins. In 1996, you had obviously Brett Favre on the offense more than anybody. Defensively, you had Leroy Butler, you had Reggie White. You could add Antonio Freeman to that mix. You need those impact players, and then you surround them with good players. Packers have a surplus of good players. Do they have enough playmakers, enough elite guys, difference makers to make the Super Bowl and win one? Well, we also now, another impact, week 4 this year, Packers in Dallas to take on the Cowboys. So that'll be a homecoming for Parsons, and the Packers will face Kenny Clark for the first time in another uniform. So that game just got more interesting. Got to consider the Packers now to be serious Super Bowl contenders when they were maybe a tier lower than that. Kind of, solid playoff team that could, if the chips fall the right way, make the Super Bowl. Now they have to be considered serious Super Bowl contenders. What a difference a day makes. Brian Gutekunst adding Micah Parsons and making a big impact. Don't forget to check out our website at thepackerspost.com for in-depth articles about your Packers 6 days a week. We also here on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss one of our videos. We have new videos Monday through Friday giving you in-depth coverage of the Packers. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, go Pack Go.